You heard what Crawford said.
Well, Boots is a tremendous, talented guy. Very strong, you know, knows boxing. He's going to be a force to reckon with.
Which part of the present day you see a lot of yourself in?
Boots, and you've seen Boots fight?
Boots,
Jordan?
yeah, Billy.
Boots a bad boy. Boots shows a lot of my stuff.
The super welterweight division, one of boxing's most entertaining weight classes, finds itself without a king. Now, a new player enters the overcrowded division. His name is Jaron Ennis. With an undefeated record, the 27-year-old brings athleticism and flash, but more importantly, power.
Has not seen a guy like Boots Ennis, and there is an overhand right. Right hand and down. His legs are not getting it done, and he is down.
Some fans and media members are already anointing Ennis as the next pound-for-pound king, but to fulfill the prophecy, he would have to dominate the overcrowded 154-pound division. Does he have the intangibles necessary to thin the herd? Let's dive in. Standing at 5 feet and 10 inches tall with a 74-inch reach, Philadelphia's Jaron Ennis is well equipped to compete with the top super welterweights. Not only does he have quick fists, but he's built a career out of his devastating power. Power which he can deliver with both hands. And so far, he's demonstrated every punch in the book. It's still unclear why some boxers hit harder than others, but one certainty involves punching technique. Compare and contrast how Emmanuelis Stanonis, Ennis' last opponent, punches. Stanonis looks muscular, but look at his arm. It's straight and not closed in an L shape, thus converting the punch into a slap. Notice also how he turns his hips. Now look at Ennis. His punches are tighter as he turns his limbs into L shapes. And look at how much more he turns his hips as he punches. Ennis employs proper punching technique. And if you like body punching, Ennis uses his power to dig downstairs, weakening his opponents. Ennis is also dangerous thanks to his quick counterpunch trigger. Due to sharp reflexes, Ennis can counter from different angles, or even after taking shots. And if his two-fisted attack wasn't enough, Ennis can also switch it, thus further complicating his opponent's plight. This, combined with his long frame, has drawn comparisons with another former welterweight champion, the pound-for-pounder, Terence Crawford. The one punch that figures to help Ennis at 154 pounds is his jab. One assumes that against men his own size, Ennis' power won't always guarantee him the win. Therefore, the jab will be primordial in scoring points. Ennis uncoils the jab with very little telegraphing. He can also fire it from both stances. To complicate matters, Ennis jabs from different angles, either firing them from a classic stance or as an up jab. In terms of defense, Ennis relies on his reflexes to roll with the shots. Or moves away with his fleet feet. In 2020, Ennis took on the tough journeyman, Juan Carlos Abreu. Abreu had gone the distance against power-punching Aegis Kavaliauskas. He'd also taken the undefeated Alexander Besputin the full 10 rounds. But against Ennis, Abreu faced a different type of firepower. Ennis snapped his jab from the outset and switched stances, confusing Abreu. He also worked the body both with jabs and with power shots.
¿Sabes lo que vinimos a hacer? Un martillo.
Supuestamente de lo mejor que
Vamos a enviar un saludo hasta
Abreu fought back, but was outgunned and out-finessed by Ennis.
Otra vez, cuidado. El olor a pólvora.
In the end, the Philadelphian closed the show in the 6th round. After promotional issues, Ennis finally secured a solid bout, this time against power-punching Royman Villa. Earlier that year, Villa had rallied late to drop the undefeated Rashidi Ellis, earning a controversial majority decision. But could Ennis defeat a fellow power puncher? Ennis got off to another fast start. He soon unleashed his offense and blooded Villa up.
And Villa's trying to counter him when he gets an opportunity, but the difference in hand speed is so dramatic.
But it wasn't a walk in the park, as Ennis was forced to absorb some shots. Eventually, however, his furious attack was too much for Villa's guard.
Clubbing, chopping right hand, disputed welterweight champion. But that left uppercut hurt him. Right hand. Wow, what a combination. The left to right. And Villa goes down for the first time in his career. And it is over.
And Ennis scored a 10th round stoppage. In 2024, Ennis took on veteran David Avanesian. In 2021, Avanesian had upset British prospect Josh Kelly, halting him in the 6th round. In 2022, Avanesian had given pound-for-pound stalwart Terence Crawford all he could handle before succumbing to his opponent in the 6th round. Ennis attacked from the start, but was met with resistance. Avanesian shifted along with Ennis and connected with his share of shots. But Avanesian was outsized and outgunned.
Boots, he's staying in there. Oh no, was that a knockdown? That's a knockdown. Right hand landed by Avanesian. And they've stopped it in the corner. Enough is enough.
And his corner pulled him out after the 5th round. Earlier in 2025, Ennis took on the undefeated Eimantas Stanonis. Stanonis, a fellow titleist, was a stout and well-conditioned volume puncher who had been tested in a tough 2022 bout against Razdav Butaev. Against Ennis, Stanonis had pockets of success. But in between, Ennis, in a replica of the Villa bout, burst through Stanonis' guard, blooding his brave opponent.
This round he's doing well. It's a bloody nose now as he lands a right hand. Stanonis covers up. Yeah, he's shrinking, and now Boots teeing up with a left uppercut, and down goes Stanonis.
He softened him up to the body and came up with the uppercut.
Once again, Ennis forced his opponent's corner to retire their charge.
Stanonis' corner has seen enough.
With the win, Ennis earned the coveted Ring Magazine title as the de facto welterweight champion of the world. Now, he has vacated his championship as he departs to the 154-pound war zone. Despite Ennis' talent, there are many apparent frailties that cast doubt on his future 154-pound tenure. At 5 feet and 10 inches in height, Ennis was much bigger than many of his opponents, a fact that the commentators had to address.
David just looks so much smaller, doesn't he, Chris?
I mean, Boots is a massive 147-pounder. It's why you hear Eddie Hearn and Boots talk about a move to 154, eventually 160, and even as high as 168.
And Chris, Boots looks bigger, doesn't he?
Yeah, it looks like he's rehydrated really well. That's a part of this for the last 3 or 4 fights.
With superior firepower and strength on Ennis' side during his welterweight tenure, it's difficult to accurately gauge his abilities. This is especially important when one considers his defensive liabilities. Back in 2017, the unheralded George Sosa stunned Ennis.
At just 20 years old, and Sosa lands a hard right.
Yes, this occurred 8 years ago, and Sosa's record indicates he can punch. But Sosa's record also shows he's never beaten anyone of note. And actually watching Sosa box displays a fighter who's wholly unequipped to compete at the world-class level. This instance by itself is nothing worrisome. That is until you combine it with other occurrences. In 2021, Ennis took on the undersized 140-pounder, Sergey Lipinets. Once again, Ennis ate his share of shots, but a curious moment occurred in the 2nd round when Lipinets connected with an overhand right that stunned Ennis. The American quickly recovered, perhaps thanks to his youth and size advantage, and proceeded to hold Lipinets in the 6th round.
Half of this 12-round affair, and Ennis with the left hand drops. Lipinets, no doubt about this one.
That's it.
And the fight has been stopped.
But this makes one wonder, if Ennis, despite a size advantage, is getting stunned by lesser fighters, how will he handle the heavy ordnance that resides in the junior middleweight division? Watching Ennis' fights, one can see he regularly gets hit. People counter that all boxers get hit and that people are exaggerating Ennis' lapses. But it's also true that some get hit less than others. And for a supposed future pound-for-pound king, Ennis has been hit too often by undersized and outgunned foes. Moreover, these punches are flush shots that twist and snap his head back. Part of why Ennis gets hit this way is because he over-relies on rolling with the punches. Rolling with shots is a risky balancing act, as it relies on upper body movement to deflect incoming fire, but 1 millisecond too late, and the boxer finds himself eating a shot. Another Ennis weakness is his faulty hand placement. Ennis often buys his opponent's feints, which causes him to drop his hands. Ennis also displaces his opposite hand when he punches. The same occurs when he jabs. And finally, he drops his hands and lifts his chin in the air when he jumps in wildly. Another problem is that he admires his work, which is a synonym for taking a snapshot after firing. This unhinged approach was fully exploited in early 2023 by the Ukrainian Jaron Chukdasian. There, Ennis proved unable to catch the wily Ukrainian, often flailing at the wind.
Straps. Big right hook there, missed. Oh man, when Boots Ennis throws a big power punch, even when he misses, it's exciting to see.
And he ate some shots for his troubles, thanks to the mistakes previously outlined.
Body. Oh, but look at Chukadzian testing the beard of Ennis. About the fact that Chukadzian did not come just to lie down.
There's another right hand. Above the Ennis offense, counter right by Chukadzian.
See, that's what I mean. You can't make mistakes like that.
Ennis, due to his reflexes, managed to land the cleaner shots, but he also proved inept at cutting the ring off.
Boots Ennis!
Ennis' supporters attempt to absolve his defensive deficiencies by claiming he eats shots because he's usually on the offensive. But this is false, as he's also been hit with several big shots while attempting to play defense. A question also remains about Ennis' stamina. There have been bouts in which he's beating opponents up, yet still finds time to initiate clinches. This could be due to firing powerful shots, which are highly energy-consuming to launch. Therefore, he can't perform at that tempo for all 3 minutes. This could also be due to hardship in making weight. In his last welterweight bouts, Ennis had trouble making weight, as he admitted to after the second Chukdasian bout.
What'd you think of your performance tonight?
My performance was okay. You know, I don't know, man. I think it might be time to go to 54, yo.
Did you feel differently?
I felt good, but I just, you know, I feel like at 54, I'm gonna be way better, and my pop gonna be how it's supposed to be. I'm getting older now. I'm 27. I'll be 28 next year.
But it sounds like you're ready to get out of 147.
No, I mean, if we can get one of these guys and stop playing, yeah, let's make it happen.
A photo of an emaciated Ennis in the build-up to the Stanonis bout also corroborates Ennis' struggle. Perhaps he will be stronger now that he has fewer pounds to shed at junior middleweight. We won't know until he faces a top opponent. No other Ennis bout exemplifies his deficiencies like the Chukdasian rematch. In 2024, Ennis attempted to clear the stigma from the first bout. This time, Ennis planned to avoid chasing Chukdasian and tried doing so by holding the center ring.
Now it's Boots on the back foot and Chukdasian actually on the front foot. He's throwing some good shots, Chukdasian. Barely missed it right now.
But within a round and a half, Chukdasian was connecting clean, and little by little, he forced Ennis to initiate the action.
Constantly bouncing on those feet, and he clipped Boots a little bit.
Both of them landed good shots. It was Boots that got the worst of it.
Ennis still displayed many of the strong points mentioned earlier, such as quick counters, body punching, and laser jabs. In fact, a fifth-round fusillade dropped Chukdasian.
Shots to the body, not forgetting the body. Boots beating up Chukdasian right now.
Takes the knee! Chukdasian is down!
And Ennis also forced his foe to clinch, costing the Ukrainian a point in the 10th round.
1 point, hold.
There it is.
1 point, hold.
But in between, whether Ennis was on the offensive or the defensive, Chukdasian managed to hit him at will. The Philadelphian even appeared stunned in certain cases, but managed to escape unharmed due to Chukdasian's lack of power. But can Ennis afford to keep absorbing shots like that against bigger and better opposition? Some criticize Ennis' trainer and father Derek Bozy Ennis for his inability to convey specific and practical advice during fights.
You standing right there, and you falling in. Stop falling in. Stop falling in, man.
There did seem at times to be a disconnect from what your father wanted in the corner and what you were delivering in the ring. It didn't seem like you were giving him what he wanted. Where was that disconnect?
I heard everything he was saying. I was just in there. I was listening and not listening at the same time. He wanted me to use more angles, use my jab more, and stop standing in front, and I did the opposite.
Still, so far, Jaron Ennis has been too powerful and too sharp, and he looks to be a solid addition to the junior middleweight division. But can he defeat the cadre of stout opposition, occupying the top spots? Let's have a look.
Man, 54, here I come.
Occupying the top spot is the 27-year-old Virgil Ortiz. The undefeated contender made his mark in 2019 when he became the first man to stop veteran Mauricio Herrera.
Well, Virgil Ortiz told us he's a slow starter, and I think he's a poised puncher.
He's skilled. He's not just some slugger walking in there. He's got a solid amateur background.
Great right-hand counter there.
Ortiz with a beautiful hook. And the right hand, that hurts Herrera.
Like that, Brian.
He is that fast, and now Herrera is hurt. He's never been stopped. Struggling, trying to stay on his feet. Down he goes! In this fight, not just win the fight, but at this point survive a hook. Right hand landed. Another right hand. Herrera's out. Herrera's out. It's over.
In 2021, after more wins over veterans and fringe contenders, Ortiz fought the hard-hitting Egis Kavaliauskas. Kavaliauskas had a stoppage win over David Evanesian and had given Terence Crawford hell back in 2019 before being stopped by the pound-for-pounder. Ortiz did about as well as Crawford, with the difference being that he started out faster, pumping out a heavy jab. Like Crawford, Ortiz was hurt early in the bout.
We got a little bit of a good shot there. Right uppercut by Kavaliauskas.
Left hand again for Kavaliauskas, and Ortiz's legs aren't quite right as he holds on.
But contrary to popular belief, a punch did not cause him to fall later in the round. Ortiz recovered and punished Kavaliauskas.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Kavaliauskas. Kavaliauskas looking for a counter right hand, trying to time the strong jab of Ortiz, but Ortiz having his way right now. Not engaging, just pecking him apart with that power jab.
Doesn't look great. A body shot sends him down for the second time.
And ferocious finishing.
Big left hook. Down goes the machine.
To beat Kavaliauskas, get Ortiz doing the hit.
The boy raised Kavaliauskas once and for all, and he's done it. The Texas Hammer drops again.
Ortiz emerged with an 8-round stoppage. After stopping Kavaliauskas, Ortiz fought the slippery southpaw Michael McKinson. Showing he could deal with a mobile foe, Ortiz broke his opponent down.
There could be some ring rust for Ortiz. There's that left hook. But he got him to the body.
Can't compete with power. It's maybe best.
You wait for a break in the action.
This is what Virgil Ortiz does. He just forces his opponents to submit under the pressure, under the aggression. You have no choice but to fight.
Starting to heat up.
Like you're in control. To be moving and pivoting.
Oh, the body shot finally does the trick.
With that, Ortiz scored a 9th-round stoppage. Health issues kept Ortiz inactive for close to 2 years. He returned early in 2024 and took 2 tune-ups, both of which lasted less than a round.
When he's out of range. So that's
good shot to the body, and you could see the look on Virgil Ortiz's face when he landed that punch. He knew exactly what he hit him with.
The inactivity cost him later that year when he took on the Ukrainian Sergei Bojok. Ortiz got off to a quick start, firing jabs and sizzling power shots.
The colors of the Ukrainian flag, and Virgil Ortiz, you see him in the blue and gold firing that right hand over the top immediately.
But Bochuk absorbed him and kept advancing. The Ukrainian scored 2 knockdowns and made the fight razor close.
I'll apply pressure when I want to apply pressure, and that's what he's doing. Virgil keeps ripping that left hook to the body.
Hard right hand over the top, but back comes Bojok.
Robert's asking him, don't try too hard. Right. When it comes to you, you're trying too hard. Close this is quickly.
Shots tonight, Bojok has, and Ortiz is looking for answers.
That's what you see in great fighters.
Look at that right hand from Bojok.
Oh, 2 right hands by Bojok.
2 knockout artists going toe-to-toe, giving and taking one another's best shots.
In the end, Ortiz secured a controversial majority decision and went the distance for the first time in his career. With something to prove, Ortiz began 2025 by facing the Uzbek, Israel Madrimov. Despite having less than 20 professional bouts, Madrimov had built a respectable dossier, bolstered by his close bout against Terence Crawford in 2024. There, Madrimov had bounced numerous shots off his opponent in what was a highly competitive chess match. Against Ortiz, Madrimov played the part of Matador, trying to run Ortiz into something big. But Ortiz remained composed, landed his shotgun jab, and picked off many of Madrimov's power punches. Starting slowly for once, Ortiz saved his energy for the middle rounds, whereupon he turned the afterburners on.
Look at this, the power starting to come through. The fists of Virgin Ortiz. Ortiz Jr. body shot.
In the end, Ortiz emerged with a unanimous decision win. The victory generated discussion about whether he'd outperformed Crawford and whether Ortiz was indeed the best junior middleweight in the world. Ortiz and Ennis are quite similar. Both are predatory fighters who chase knockouts through a two-fisted attack. Both men scored numerous stoppages before finally going the distance deep into their professional careers. And both possess heavy jabs. Ortiz is also a dedicated body puncher, having stopped many an opponent by investing downstairs. Ennis, however, incorporates more upper body movement and possesses faster hands. Ortiz, however, has a tighter, more classical guard, which prevents his head from being snapped around as often as Ennis's. On top of a high guard, Ortiz incorporates upper body movement. Ortiz has also proven more effective at cutting the ring off and chasing down opponents. This due in part to being skilled at quickly transitioning between offense and defense. A weakness still apparent in Ennis's repertoire. However, looking at the Bojok fight, one wonders whether the layoff played a part in hampering Ortiz's performance, or whether he simply falters when someone can absorb his punches. In that bout, many noticed that Ortiz threw almost every punch as hard as he could. This not only helps the opponent in reading Ortiz's rhythm, but also saps Ortiz's energy in the long run. By the middle rounds, Ortiz was struggling to keep up with Bochuk, and only the Texan's jab was enough to eke him the decision. Another concern for Ortiz is something he shares with Ennis. Although Ortiz appears more defensively responsible, he still overcommits when punching. This helps generate power, but if he misses, he's open for counters. Moreover, he could use more head movement in order to keep the head on a different axis and avoid getting caught during exchanges. Just as Ennis sometimes over-relies on his head movement, so too does Ortiz over-rely on his guard. Against Ennis's considerable offense, Ortiz would do well to vary his defensive tactics. Still, due to his versatile attack, skills, and explosiveness, Ortiz figures to be one of the top 3 most dangerous foes in Ennis's 154-pound campaign. Don't let Madrimov's limited professional experience fool you. The Uzbek remains one of the top boxers in the division. And like Ortiz, he shares many similarities with Ennis. Madimov started his pro career without any cuddling, signing on for a 10-rounder in his first pro fight. Complicating things was the opponent, the tough gatekeeper Vladimir Hernandez. But Madimov made it look easy, as he punished his opponent. The bout ended in a 6-round stoppage. Madrimov racked up the wins and was robbed of a knockout victory in 2020 against Eric Walker when the referee shockingly ruled a knockdown as being a slip. Madrimov was forced to go the distance for the first time in his career, winning a 12-round unanimous decision. In 2021, Madrimov took on the top-rated Michel Soro. Soro had beaten the once undefeated Glenn Tapia and had lost a close decision to Brian Castaño. Madrimov and Soro traded jabs throughout the bout, but Madrimov landed the harder shots. The Uzbek hurt Soro in the 9th, but controversy erupted when the referee failed to hear the bell and allowed Madrimov to land several punches. Despite the post-bell barrage, Madrimov earned a TKO win. The two men did it again in 2022. It started off as another careful fencing match, but Madimov's power remained a factor. Unfortunately, a headbutt caught Sorrow, leading to a no contest. Then, in 2024, Madimov faced one of the top junior middleweights, the undefeated Russian, Magomed Kurbanov. Kurbanov had wins over Liam Smith, Patrick Teixeira, and Michel Sorrow. And though some of his wins were controversial, Kurbanov was a skilled operator who had yet to be defeated. Madimov outboxed him from the center ring, hitting him from all angles. Madimov picked him apart and ended matters in the 5th round.
Fantastic shot. And look at this, Madrimov! They're gonna stop it!
Then, in August 2024, Madrimov stepped up against Terence Crawford. After a slow start, Madrimov began connecting. The fight became a close tactical affair, and Terence Crawford's edge in experience earned him a close win. Madimov has proven he belongs at the upper echelon, and though he later lost a decision to Virgil Ortiz in 2025, Madimov became the second person to last a distance against him. Equally, he broke Crawford's 11-fight stoppage streak, which means Madimov is a highly durable boxer. Therefore, Ennis would have to fire on all cylinders to dent the stout Uzbek. Like Ennis, Madimov is an ambidextrous boxer who can crack with both hands, and he can also fight coming forward or on the retreat. Madimov's proven he can exchange fire with the best of them. Moreover, he can lure people into traps, making them drop their hands, a mistake which Ennis regularly commits. And though he's come up short twice, he would remain Ennis' best opponent to date. An Ennis versus Madimov bout would be a 50-50 affair. At 32 years old, the Russian Bakram Murtazaliev is not only one of the oldest boxers in the top 10, but also one of the lesser known. Perhaps this is what makes him so dangerous. Murtazaliev emerged in 2024 after close to a 2-year layoff. There, he fought the tough Jack Kolke. Kolke was a savvy veteran who'd faced the top middleweights such as Masin Sulensky, Dimitris Andrade, and Sergei Davidchenko, giving the latter two all they could handle. Kolke fired away with both hands, trying to take Murtazaliev into deep waters. But the more Kolke pressed, the more shots he ate. Murtazaliev weathered Kolke's rushes and landed his bombs.
Tanto de equivaler la rapidez de Kolke. Hasta el momento
de que lo tiene. O sea, cuidado que está en problemas. En problemas está Kolke echando hacia atrás. Cuidado que puede terminar. Hay olor a pólvora.
He became the first man to drop and stop the tricky Kolke. Later that year, Murtazaliev took on the once-beaten Tim Tszyu. Resolute in his comeback, Tszyu started out quickly, and both men picked their spots.
Versus Fundora all over again.
There's a short right hand.
Tszyu
Stiff jab and right hand by Tim Tszyu.
But in the second, Murtazaliev uncorked his power.
And a left hook that drops Tim Tszyu. 4. There's a right hand by Tszyu, but still on wobbly legs. A left hook drops him.
It's a guard. I do not know how he's still standing.
And he's down.
The Russian's heavy fists were too much for Tszyu.
Pressuring, but he's not
jabbing. Oh, he got dropped with that left hook. The fight's over. The champ. And the towel goes in.
Murtazaliev walked away with his second quality win. Murtazaliev's greatest weapon is his power and size. Standing at 6 feet tall, the Russian is a stout challenge. As evidenced in his last bouts, he's dangerous with the right hand and the left hook. And he can also counter during exchanges, striking quicker than he lets on. Jack Kolke tried to use his guile and stamina to tire Murtazaliev, but his technique was useless against the Russian's firepower. Similarly, Tim Tszyu's plight only worsened when he heightened his attack against Murtazaliev. It's clear that exchanging with the Russian is a bad idea, and before Ennis even begins thinking about stopping Murtazaliev, he better discover if he can beat him. Murtazaliev is hittable and slower than Ennis, so the American stands a good chance of outboxing him, and if Ennis' power carries through, he could inflict damage against the slower Murtazaliev. However, Ennis would have to tighten his defense and remain sharp for as long as the fight lasts. This would be another risky bout for Ennis, but a win would earn him high praise from the boxing world. At 27 years old, Fundora is the most unusual junior middleweight. Standing at 6 feet and 5.5 inches tall, the southpaw Fundora is taller than many heavyweights. Beyond his ridiculous height, Fundora is also a veteran, having already tasted victory and defeat. The tall junior middleweight is a pressure fighter who disregards his height advantage in exchange for inside combat. There, he launches vicious uppercuts. And despite being freakishly tall, Fundora still invests to the body. He also possesses solid stamina, having gone the distance multiple times. Fundora impressed back in 2020 when he dispatched the usually durable Nathaniel Gallimore. There, Fundora rattled his foe on the inside.
I got a hand in these guys'
possession, but he is getting beaten down.
It's pretty amazing.
Hard shot, Gallimore. Stay on his feet, but he's hurt, he's backing up.
Fundora proceeded to score a 6-round stoppage. In 2022, Fundora stepped in against the quick-handed Erickson Lubin. Fundora started off quickly, hurting his foe.
Fighting back with the left. Oh, down goes Lubin.
Lubin worked the body in an attempt to slow Fundora and managed to connect with his own power.
Hear his guts.
But Fundora kept plugging away, turned Lubin's face into a Halloween mask, and forced his opponent's corner to call it a day in the 9th round.
And there you go, Kevin.
Later that year, Fundora defeated contender Carlos Ocampo. Fundora connected with some massive shots, but Ocampo returned fire and extended Fundora the distance.
I'd like to see him, it's being close to being stopped.
Then, in 2023, Fundora took on another pugnacious contender in Brian Mendoza. In 2021, Mendoza had lost to another tall, aggressive boxer in Jesus Ramos. And though Mendoza could crack, as evidenced by his win over former titleist Jason Rosario, he'd faded late against Ramos. And therefore, many expected Fundora to replicate the task. Indeed, Fundora mangled Mendoza early.
He's been hard to get before. 15 of his 21 wins, and Mendoza shoot shot. There's for Fundora. Uppercuts now on the inside by Fundora.
Mendoza fought back, but it was no match for Fundora's inside fighting, and it seemed like it was a matter of time before Mendoza broke. But Mendoza lived up to his nickname, the Bullet, by unloading one last shot.
Now he's trying to...
Fundora could be toppled. Then, in 2024, without a tune-up, Fundora replaced Keith Thurman to face top contender Tim Tszyu. Fundora, who had been scheduled to fight on the same card, was in good condition, but it mattered little, as Tszyu proved too sharp for him. Late in the second round, an elbow opened a cut on Tszyu's head. With Tszyu's vision compromised, Fundora increased the action. Tszyu damaged Fundora's nose, and the fight became a bloodbath. Fundora kept his hands moving, not always throwing hard, but just enough to bank rounds. In the end, he pulled off an upset via split decision win. Unfortunately for Fundora, he remained idle for a year before returning in March 2025 to stop the underwhelming Chordale Booker. Fundora is an inconsistent fighter. He can brutalize opponents, as he did against Gallimore and Lubin, or he can deliver to decision wins, as he did against Sergio Garcia and Carlos Ocampo. However, even in his loss against Brian Mendoza, Fundora proved dangerous on the inside. Ennis may have an advantage over Fundora, especially if his firepower carries to 154, as Fundora is a slow-twitch fighter who likes to brawl. This means that Ennis' quicker hands may land first, and he could either outbox Fundora or perhaps even weaken him en route to a stoppage. By virtue of Fundora's slower hands and porous defense, Ennis has a good chance of besting his tall foe, but he'd be taking a risk exchanging on the inside. The 30-year-old Sergey Bojok isn't your classic Ukrainian boxer. Standing at 6 feet tall, this come-forward bruiser always looks for the knockout. Like many of the top fighters in the division, he can punch with either hand. And as with any good pressure fighter, he throws a mean body shot. Worst of all, he can keep firing for all 12 rounds. Bochuk's career didn't get off to the best of starts. Back in 2021, Bochuk put his undefeated record against contender Brandon Adams. Bochuk pressed the American. Meanwhile, Adams moved or absorbed what he had to. And in the 8th round, Adams struck.
Talk about this. Bochuk hadn't been past 6.
Counter left hand there by Adams.
Left hand drop Bochuk. And it's going to be stopped.
Bochuk had learned a difficult lesson. It ain't over until it's over. Later that year, Bochuk returned against French contender Raphael Igbokwe. Firing on all cylinders, Bochuk proved his usual vicious self.
Igbokwe causing a lot. Taking no shots. He might taste this canvas here at the quiet cannon.
And the Ukrainian emerged victorious in fewer than 6 rounds. 3 years later, in 2024, Bochuk took on Brian Mendoza. Mendoza was coming off a decision loss to Tszyu, but he was an explosive foe, as evidenced by his knockout win over Sebastian Fundora the previous year. That punch was the same one that had caused Bochuk victory against Adams. Fearless, Bochuk barged forward, both barrels, guns blazing.
Those punches. Early on, we are seeing both fighters actually landed Bochuk to the running knee. Both guys have power. Oh, there was the Mike Tyson combination. Right up to the body, right up. Gets the knockout. That's a right uppercut. The inside left hook. Right uppercut.
Mendoza landed some shots, but Bochuk took them. And in the middle rounds, it was doubtful whether Mendoza would survive. But the bloodied Mendoza proved courageous and heard the final bell. Bochuk won by unanimous decision. Later that year, Bochuk took on the undefeated Virgil Ortiz. Bochuk twice dropped Ortiz and exchanged firepower with the young stalwart. Bochuk was unlucky to come out on the wrong end of a highly controversial decision. The Ukrainian kept the year off against the UK's Ishmael Davis. Months earlier, Davis had fought former Uber prospect Josh Kelly, ending the fight strongly, but way too late to earn a decision. He got off to a fast start against Bochuk, sniping his slower foe.
All the time. Lovely right hand. That will give him confidence in the ring and then start again. Good work, changes.
But an overconfident Davis failed to understand whom he was fighting. Davis continued landing shots, but so was Bochuk. And the Ukrainian possessed the heavier payload.
It's just relentless, absolute relentless pressure.
He took the word out of my mouth. Relentless is exactly what Bochuk is. He doesn't take a backward step.
Bochuk forced Davis's corner to throw in the towel. In 2025, Bochuk took on perennial contender Mikhail Fox. The 6 feet 3 inch tall Fox had been in with some tough contenders and had never been stopped. Bochuk applied his usual pressure and started well, but Fox continued moving, preventing Bochuk from setting his feet. Bochuk was too slow to catch his foe, and Fox peppered him from the outside. The mobile Fox maintained his pace for all 10 rounds, but Bochuk never stopped advancing. In the 10th round, the referee missed a Fox knockdown, erroneously calling it a slip. In the end, Bochuk emerged with a 10-round unanimous decision. Fox's offense had been more voluminous, while Bochuk's had been harder, along with him being the aggressor throughout the bout. Still, it had been a bad performance from the Ukrainian. With deft footwork, a mobile boxer can turn Bochuk, and the movement also keeps much of Bochuk's offense hidden, as he has to plant himself before throwing. But as Ishmael Davis found out, doing it for all 12 rounds is a difficult endeavor. But Ennis might not need to endure Bochuk's ire for 10 to 12 rounds. The Ukrainian's main line of defense is a guard, and as seen earlier, Ennis, provided he still has power at 154 pounds, can break through guards. Moreover, this would be a shootout between two punchers, and Ennis figures to be quicker on the draw. Moreover, we know that Bochuk can be stopped. Still, the ever-present risk for Ennis is that he's been hurt against lesser punchers. Ennis would be favored to beat the Ukrainian, but it would remain a risky fight. At 30 years of age, the Australian Tszyu has tasted the good and the bad. Tszyu looks and fights similar to his legendary father, former undisputed junior welterweight champion, Tszyu. And though Tszyu lacks the same one-punch knockout power, His offensive capabilities, combined with his pressure tactics, result in a dangerous pugilist. Tszyu likes to advance on opponents and attacks from long or mid-range. His sharp technique allows him to throw every punch in the book. He is also a dedicated body puncher. When it comes to defense, Tszyu relies on his feet to create distance, though he can also block or roll with the shots. Back in 2020, Tszyu took on Jeff Horn. The fellow Australian had become famous in 2017 after upsetting the great Manny Pacquiao in a foul-filled affair. Thereafter, Terence Crawford stopped Horn within 9 rounds. Horn's roughhouse tactics were ineffective, as Tszyu's own strength routed his charges.
It's done. He's got a real up in his step. Still, he's not taking any
Tszyu battered his foe en route to an 8th-round stoppage.
They've stopped the fight. Of course they have.
After more solid wins, Tszyu fought perennial contender Terrell Gausha in 2022. Tszyu encountered resistance early.
Just with that left eye as he goes down hard to Tszyu. He goes down hard in America. Right hand.
But soon, Tszyu re-established control and backed Gausha up.
And over the top, big right hand from Tszyu, and up somehow, and he sits on the ropes and uppercuts pour in.
Tszyu maintained his opponent on the ropes throughout most of the fight, launching every punch in the book. The durable Gausha landed the occasional shot, but was thoroughly outboxed, as Tszyu emerged with a unanimous decision victory. In 2023, Tszyu took on former titleist Tony Harrison. Harrison had fought the best 154-pounders in the world, including a win over future junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo. Harrison stuck his jab in Tszyu's face, but the Australian remained composed, gradually breaking Harrison down. Harrison bravely fought back, but his fragile chin betrayed him once again. With that, Tszyu scored a 9th-round stoppage. Tszyu followed it up by easily dispatching of Carlos Ocampo inside a round.
Tszyu is in a destructive mood today. Look for that shot like that right there. There he goes. Pouring through.
Then, he capped off the year by taking on Brian Mendoza, who was coming off the Fundora victory. Weary of Mendoza's power, Tszyu was economical with his punch output. Instead, he backed Mendoza up, gradually tiring him out. Tszyu increased the tempo, and through his control of distance, Tszyu nullified Mendoza's offense. The Australian sought the stoppage, but Mendoza's grit and experience kept him standing.
Power and aggression.
He's landing enough to control his fight.
But again, it jacks the jaw. How in the hell is Mendoza still standing?
In the end, Tszyu emerged with a unanimous decision win. In 2024, Tszyu, set to fight Keith Thurman, ended up fighting Sebastian Fundora at the last minute. Despite Fundora being completely different from Thurman in both style and physical dimensions, Tszyu did well against a shockingly tall southpaw. But an elbow opened a gash over Tszyu's head, which obfuscated his vision. Many criticized Tszyu and his team for failing to pull him out of the bout, which would have been ruled a no contest due to the injury's accidental nature. Instead, Tszyu lost a disputed decision. For his comeback bout, Tszyu took on the relatively unknown but dangerous Bakram Murtazaliev. Tszyu did well, backing up the puncher, but Tszyu's tenacity cost him. Tszyu fought back, but was ill-equipped to exchange with Murtazaliev.
There's a good exchange.
Tszyu doesn't know any other way but to go forward in these situations.
They exchange rights.
In the end, the Russian emerged victorious via 3rd-round stoppage. In 2025, Tszyu returned to form against Joseph Spencer, stopping his foe in the 4th round. Now, the Australian looks towards phase 1 of his revenge tour as he faces Sebastian Fundora in July. Tszyu can dispose of lower-level opponents, though his power diminishes against the best foes. He's also not as quick as Ennis, so again, in a firefight, the slower fists could cost him. Speaking of fists, Tszyu would do well to tighten his defense. He's been over-relying on his feet to back or lean away from foes. Tszyu had also shown a questionable chin prior to Gausha and Murtazaliev when he took on Wade Ryan in 2017. There, Tszyu tasted the canvas in the 1st round. Tszyu proceeded to win a 10-round decision, but you wonder how well his career will unfold, seeing as how he's been a pressure boxer with a shaky chin. Another problem with his guard is the wide gap in the middle, which allowed Harrison to land flush jabs. Ennis has a sharp stick, and Tszyu would do well to repair his porous defense. The taller Ennis could potentially keep Tszyu at bay, but the Australian is a precise puncher who can launch all manner of shots, and it would behoove Ennis to remain vigilant against a crafty boxer. After a long hiatus, the southpaw Erickson Lubin is back in the top 10 rankings. This quick-fisted boxer strikes reluctance into his opponents via his blazing hands. But Lubin doesn't rely on his speed to outbox opponents. He often looks to hurt them, thus entertaining the fans. Like many of the 154-pounders, Lubin mixes in his offense, striking upstairs or downstairs. But if he wants to, he can also box on the retreat. Note, however, that Lubin is not a runner, as he's often looking to counter. Lubin garnered much attention early in his career. This led him to fight Jermell Charlo back in 2017. Unfortunately for Lubin, it was too much too soon for him.
But 11 of his knockouts.
On the third, Lubin rebounded by fighting veteran Ishii Smith in 2019, became the first man to stop the durable trail horse. Later that year, Lubin took on the tough Nathaniel Gallimore. Gallimore did his best, but was more successful at theatrics than at punching, as Lubin proved too fast for him.
And that might have hurt Gallimore. A right hook that lands. Now Lubin teeing off on Gallimore.
Gallimore on straight left again, catching Gallimore.
Lubin having a big round here. Is not helping out either. And a heavy straight left by Lubin. Oh my, jarring the jaw.
Lubin walked away with a unanimous decision. In 2020, Lubin took on Terrell Gausha. Gausha's stat defense kept him in the fight, as he looked to catch Lubin with something big. But in between, Lubin sniped him from the outside, stacking up the points. Gausha broke through in the 10th.
Trying to hurt Lubin and oh my, he did. And Gausha now looking to open up for Erickson Lubin here in round 10.
But Lubin regrouped and finished strong.
Be counterpunched and hurts.
Maybe he's trying to...
Oh my, shot and now Lubin.
Lubin skirted danger and earned a unanimous decision. In 2021, Lubin took on former titleist Jason Rosario. In 2020, Rosario had upset Julian Williams to nab an alphabet strap, only to lose it to Jermell Charlo later that year. The heavy-handed Rosario aimed to test Lubin's chin, while the American attempted to pick him off. The fight ignited in the third round.
On the ropes, unable to fire back. Eats another right hook. Auspices of a Kevin Cunningham. A comprehensive effort. Banana Rosario.
Lubin looked strong, but Rosario would soon return the favor.
Picking shots, he's picking off Rosario with those shots.
He got hurt.
It was a seesaw affair, but Lubin struck back in the 6th.
The growth of Erickson Lubin, and he drops the investment to the body, and Rosario is down again.
This set Lubin up for a vacant belt against the undefeated Sebastian Fundora in 2022. Once again, it was a back-and-forth bout, but Lubin, his face a swollen mess, was pulled out by his corner in the 9th round. Lubin bounced back with a stoppage win in 2023 against Luis Arias, and then took on the undefeated Jesus Ramos. Like Fundora, Ramos was a tall pressure fighter, and many expected Lubin's fragile chin to fail again. Ramos pressured Lubin, who looked to counter his advancing foe. Lubin flashed his hands, but failed to land much of significance. But contrary to Fundora, Ramos was not staying on the inside as often as Fundora had, thus giving his opponent room to breathe. In the championship rounds, Ramos refused to end strongly, and it cost him. In the end, Lubin received an unpopular decision win. At 29 years old, Lubin possesses the fastest hands in the division and would be the quickest fighter Ennis has faced. And though Lubin can be stopped, his underrated power would keep Ennis honest. More than any other top 154-pounder, Lubin would force Ennis to press the action. And as seen in his bouts against Chukdazian, Ennis' ability to pressure remains questionable. Again, by virtue of Lubin's lack of resistance, Ennis has a good chance at stopping him, But that's if Ennis can carry his power up to 154 pounds. At 24 years old, the lanky Ramos is the youngest boxer in the top 10 rankings. The southpaw Ramos looks to pressure fighters into exhaustion, but Ramos is less Bojok or Fundora and more like Tszyu. He likes to strike from long or mid-range and prefers stepping back to dodge punches rather than to block them. When it comes to his offense, Ramos looks to hurt opponents by firing his straight left, but he also packs a powerful right hook, especially when delivered to the body. And Ramos has proven he can go the distance against solid opposition. Back in 2021, Ramos took on Brian Mendoza. Mendoza proved tricky early on, but Ramos' constant pressure allowed him to take over, as he scored both downstairs and upstairs. In the end, Ramos walked away with a unanimous 10-round decision. In 2022, Ramos took on the journeyman king, Vladimir Hernandez. Hernandez was a non-stop brawler who pulled off upset wins over Alfredo Angulo and Julian Williams. Hernandez took it to Ramos, testing the younger man's mettle.
He threw 86 punches. So Lennox, he has an incredible work rate into this ring.
And it's showing right here.
Thumping left hands. We've never seen Ramos just take shots like this.
The inside fighting rampage throughout 5 rounds. But in the 6th, Ramos connected.
The knockout stop and the...
Oh, he's hurt now! Wobbling backwards. Barrage from Jesus Ramos.
That's it.
With the win, Ramos became only the second man to stop the durable Hernandez. Later that year, Ramos took on another dangerous spoiler in Lucas Santamaria. Like Hernandez, Santamaria had scored his share of upset victories, which included wins over Mikael Fox, Devon Alexander, and Jesus' brother, Abel Ramos. But contrary to Hernandez, Santamaria was a tricky long-range boxer, and Ramos was forced to double his ring-cutting efforts.
For a very long time, which is the counter-punching. Yeah, he's getting in a lot more Ramos.
Santamaria employed guerrilla warfare, staying on the move and ambushing Ramos. But Ramos was too active and too accurate for his foe. Ramos emerged with a 10-round unanimous decision. In 2023, Ramos took on the undefeated Joseph Spencer. Spencer tried his best, but he was outgunned against Ramos and suffered a vicious beating.
On the bigger got thudding power on display.
Isn't really keeping his hands up. Not good for his career.
No, he is. I mean, he's young.
In the end, Spencer's trainer surrendered in the 7th round. Later that year, Ramos took on Erickson Lubin. Ramos did a good job of backing his foe up, as well as of controlling Lubin's quicker hands.
Opportunities you want to take if you're Lubin.
Nice left uppercut. Snuck it in on the inside. Right uppercut. Hook from Ramos. A left to the body. Oh, nice right. By Ramos.
But Ramos had not dominated the early rounds, and he slowed his attack late in the bout. In the end, it cost him, and Ramos was on the wrong end of a dubious 12-round loss. Ramos has since bounced back with 2 stoppage wins. Although slower than Jaron Ennis, Ramos is not as slow as some of the other pressure fighters in this division, and he relies on more than just a guard to block his shots, which would force Ennis to overcommit and thus be open to counters. Moreover, at 5 feet 10 inches tall, Ramos is just as tall as Ennis, although his reach is 2 inches shorter at 72 inches. However, Ramos doesn't possess the quickness to score flash knockdowns or early stoppages, like some of his 154-pound peers. He does, however, possess some of the best footwork when it comes to pressuring, and at 24 years old, Ramos might improve into being one of the division's top 5 boxers. Still, his refusal to go for the kill in the championship rounds against Lubin and casts aspersions on Ramos' grit, or lack thereof. Would Ramos' lower hands and lack of killer instinct cost him a win against Ennis? Occupying the number 10 spot, Jorge Garcia Perez proves another risky fighter. The 6-feet-tall Mexican is not as hard a puncher as some of the other names occupying this list, nor is he the fastest or strongest, but he's a seasoned veteran, having incurred losses early in his career. He also has a tricky defense, effective at outside and inside fighting, and of course, he can go to the body. In April 2025, Perez took on the division's dark horse, the undefeated Charles Conwell. Perez proved more difficult to hit than expected and scored regularly.
A little bit more, but Perez right there, and he's trying to bully Conwell.
Conwell fought back hard to keep his undefeated record, but Perez always replied with something, refusing to let Conwell steal the play. In the end, Perez pulled out a split decision win. Perez already has a fight set against the undefeated prospect, Xander Zayas. Based on Perez only having one solid win, his longevity in the top 10 remains doubtful. Looking outside the top 10 rankings, we find the Puerto Rican, Xander Zayas. At 5 feet and 10 inches tall, Zayas is a crafty long-range fighter. He's also defeated taller foes, such as Patrick Teixeira, so he shouldn't be seeing anything new against Perez. Zayas is explosive, but not destructive. As such, he's yet to win over his countryman's adulation, but he's a sharp boxer with quick hands and feet, which allows him to control the distance. However, Perez does throw looping power shots that can travel outside the line of sight, and thus remains a dangerous foe for Zayas. Forget what you know about Cuban boxers, they're not running anymore, and Ennis Tellez is more than willing to convey the message.
Here live on the zone. Celebrating this crowd in a frenzy. Navarro's still out.
Tellez is an aggressive puncher who delivers upstairs and downstairs. Against top opposition, he's more of a bruiser than a one-punch knockout artist, but that only means more pain for his opponents. Tellez demonstrated this in bouts against the undefeated Joseph Jackson and former titleist Julian Williams, bouts in which the Americans were forced to survive rather than attempt to win. Tellez's defense consists of a classic guard, along with rolling. Ennis would do well to imitate that in a bout with the dangerous Cuban, if he wants to avoid unconsciousness. Still, at this point, Tellez isn't in the top 10 yet, and has yet to face a dangerous puncher, so questions remain about his chin and durability. So, who would you guys favor over Ennis? Can he fulfill the goals prophesied by his fans and media, or is the 154-pound division too dangerous for one man to conquer? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out the rest of our videos and podcasts. Like, subscribe, we'll catch you in the next one.